out of Facebook.
Hey, I am nice,
They
Facebook.
would not let us even get nothing. I can't believe they just did that.
Yeah, it's actually not. Yeah, it's not even because I keep looking for it to share it to my.
I'm thinking they just banned us.
Oh, there we go. Now I'm live.
Hold on, let me redo it. Let me reset you up. Now,
all right.
On Facebook, there we go.
Well.
We back.
Well. If anybody just noticed, we were on, and then we weren't. Yep, we're back. Okay, so apparently that was record-setting time for us to get kicked off Facebook. So, anybody who's out there on our Facebook Live, that was record time, man. I mean, yeah. Okay, so I'm Melissa Mays, and I'm always late. Let's just start with that. Whether it's 2 minutes or 10 or 15, but I got a lot of information to cover. So we were starting the show, and then all of a sudden, poof, we disappeared. So, yeah, I'm sorry, Facebook. Maybe I don't look nice enough today. I mean, I don't know. Do I have to say nice things or something to say, please let us stay alive? Please don't punish 810 News Media Group and Mickey Jordan by kicking them off. But didn't I just say that I don't want to announce when my shows are and promote them because something's going to happen? Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, so if you're getting kicked off, just all I was doing was actually literally talking about the City of Flint's press release, and maybe Facebook caught that it's a mess and not exactly accurate, and then maybe they cut us off for that. Anyhow, good morning, and for a second time, we're back, and sorry about that. Thanks for staying with us. My name is Melissa Mays. I'm founder of What Are You Fighting For? Since January 2015, Flint resident. We started What Are You Fighting For? Because we received a letter in the mail from the city saying, I'm sorry, I'm just laughing. I was like, I didn't even get a chance to post about us. Yeah. Okay. Share now. Okay. So sorry, everybody. We look a mess, but it was we were actually rolling. It was pretty smooth. We were actually moving pretty smooth already this morning. And yeah, Facebook's like, nah, we don't want to hear from this lady again. Well, tough. Anyway, so we started What Are You Fighting For as a portal of accurate information about the water quality, water testing, and health information, how to protect yourselves for Flint residents, because the city, state, county, nobody was telling us anything. We were getting these really long, complicated letters saying, hey, let's talk about total trihalomethanes. What? And if you swim in a pool for 60 years, you might get cancer. What? What's that got to do with us? But the important thing is that it said it's all safe, but you may want to speak to your doctor before consuming the water. Well, that's a red flag. In our latest, the Consumer Confidence Report, the water quality report that comes out every year, it says the same thing. So not much has changed. Okay. So we need to talk about the Lead and Copper Rule and Safe Drinking Water Act so we can fully understand how and why it is a shame that the city of Flint and state of Michigan are. I was nicer, by the way, the first go around. I was nicer, but now I'm not. So I'm not going to be. We may get kicked again. Just heads up. Sorry. And I'm here with Mickey Jordan, who is my producer, my tech, as Tanya Burns, Councilman Burns calls him, tech guru, everything, handling all the things and chaos that I bring with in my little tornado. So of information. It's information at least. So everybody got upset because and confused because on August 8th of this year, the city of Flint, state of Michigan, and of course, everybody picked it up. Ooh, Flint marks 7th year of compliance with lead standards. We all saw it. A lot of people are upset about it. A lot of people are confused. Some people feel relieved. Like, oh, hey, that's a good thing, right? No. Nope. I am the bearer of this kind of news. It is not, because the Lead and Copper Rule and Safe Drinking Water Act, the regulations they're talking about, the lead standards they're talking about, are not health protective. There are no human or animal health protection parts of this whatsoever. Okay, and we're going to go over some key numbers. First of all, is zero. Zero is the only safe level of lead, period, across the board. No ifs, ands, or buts, no age restrictions. Does not matter if you're immunocompromised or not. Lead and other heavy metals are neurotoxins. Toxins bad. Toxic is bad. That's a poison. And it doesn't matter if you ingest a little or a lot. Your body is not set up to eat metal. Okay? And drinking it and brushing your teeth with it and making your coffee with it, because if you boil it, it does not reduce the lead. It actually makes it worse because you're boiling out some of the water. So it's condensing the heavy metals that are in there. Not okay. So 0. That, if we had 0 parts per billion of lead and the testing was done properly, we could celebrate. But instead, the city wants to say, hey, our 90th percentile is 8 parts per billion, but that's under 15, so it's fine. All kind of wrong in there. The 15 parts per billion that people keep hearing about and talking about has nothing to do with safety. It is the bare minimum at 15 parts per billion. If a city or a municipality is testing their water like they're supposed to be, and because of our lawsuit and because of the state of emergency, the city of Flint has to test every 6 months. They're supposed to do a test called, and we'll talk about this. We'll have educational sessions about these things. What a tier 1 home and a tier 2 home are. Tier 1 homes are obviously homes with lead service lines, even though they're saying they're not. Tier 2 is homes maybe with a copper service line, but it was built before 1986, so they most likely have lead, basically fixtures like lead solder. Like my house has leaded brass compression fittings. That's awesome. And apparently some of the new meters have leaded brass compression fittings, because why not put lead back into our houses? Anyway. So the 15 parts per billion means that they take the required amount of tests, they toss out the highest 10%, which look, yeah. So those 10% of people, those 10% of tests, you can be poisoned. Oh, well. And we're going to talk about that. And then they average out the 90th percentile that's left. And with that, then they say, oh, our average is this. And they're saying it's 8 parts per billion at this point in time. And that here we are. Look how great we're doing. And there's a graph that they put up and all this stuff. So basically it says the Michigan Department of, so EGLE, or Michigan DEQ, formerly known as, today announced that the City of Flint's lead and copper rule monitoring has shown the 90th percentile of lead to be 8 parts per billion. This marks the 7th consecutive year that Flint has met the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act. Only meaning that there's not a corrosion emergency. However, if you look at that graph right there on the top, thank you, Mickey, at the top, it shows that it's still not okay. That's still not okay. 8 parts per billion, saying that basically after they threw out the top 10%, the highest tests, that means that the 90% left is averaging at 8 parts per billion. And that these are the tests that the city chose the locations. The city picks the sites. And if you keep reading, they basically tell you that they tested 30 homes, 30 residences. So they're basing this safety off of 30. There's more than 30 homes in the city of Flint, and that's not even a good representation of it. Then they tested tier 2, so they went by commercial properties served by lead service lines. Here's the problem with that. Commercial properties do not use their water the same way that people living in their homes do. So that's misleading, okay? And then they're talking about that that there were 4 sites shown above the 15 parts per billion action level. That's not okay. And again, there's a ton of sites that showed above 0, which is the safety level, what we need to focus on. So when you look at these things, when you look at these statements the city is saying, they're like, yay, we're in compliance with one of the lowest protective, the lowest standards that exist, because these are outdated, right? And we did work in 2018 and got some of the Michigan lead and copper rule updated, right? But the federal laws haven't been updated in decades. And again, let me just say, not safe. This is why we need to get our water tested. Everybody needs to go to City Hall between the hours of 9 and 4 during the week, or you can call the City of Flint Public Health Navigators, and if you're homebound, and say, hey, I need you to deliver a water test kit. And that number is 810-410-2020. So you call them and say, hey, I need a water test kit dropped off, and then I need it picked back up. And you have to let your water sit for 6 to 8 hours to get, like you would like sleeping overnight or being gone away from work. Make sure that nobody's flushing the toilet. Make sure that nothing's moving. And then you're going to fill those water test bottles up at the tap that you're most concerned about without a filter. Make sure the filter's turned off or moved away. And you're going to turn it on full blast and then have them pick it back up or drop the test kit back off. And then you're going to take a picture of the receipt number they give you, the test kit number. And then they're supposed to let you know. But everybody needs to do that. Now, unfortunately, we're still stuck with dealing with the state of Michigan and city of Flint doing the testing. And that there's issues there within itself. So as the city of Flint is bragging about the 7th year compliance with lead. Now, mind you, if all the lead were out, leave that up. That's perfect. That's the next one. You are the best. I just want to tell you, Mickey's the best. If he's not psychic, he knows me this well already. And yes, that's where we're going. If the city of Flint was so proud of this, we wouldn't be worried about getting these pipes out. We wouldn't be worried about making sure that everybody's, just trying to end this properly. And it wouldn't be this many years. If the lead pipes were out, we'd be at 0. Okay. So that means the work's not done. However, not everybody is below 8 parts per billion. And so whenever the city and state put out any kind of information about their quote unquote testing, I want to go look and see. So on the state of Michigan's website, there's a graph right here. This graph shows you tests that were turned in by residents, residential testing from basically July 1st. So the 6-month monitoring period began January 1st and ends June 30th. Okay, and then the second monitoring period starts July 1st and goes till then December. Okay, so we got already a great start for the summer. Now, if you look across this graph here, you'll see yellow stripes. So the yellow stripes I put in there because those are addresses that were tested the same day. Now, I shrunk out the street address because I didn't want to dox people. But if it's in yellow, and I want you to know this because the next spreadsheet you're going to see is going to be a lot of yellow, where basically the test was done, 2 tests, same address, same day. Let me explain why that's bad. You're not supposed to run the water, right? So if you run the water after the first test and then you run the water, take a second test, that second test isn't going to, it's not honest, okay? It's not honest. But the big thing that we're looking at right here, is that there is a home in Flint on July 13th that tested over 14,000 parts per billion. Now, back to the numbers. The only safe level of lead for animals, plants, humans is 0. 15 parts per billion is the action level saying, hey, there is a corrosion problem. You have to do something as a city. 5,000 parts per billion. Well, let me say 150 parts per billion are what the tap filters are rated at handling, at reducing. 150. 5,000 parts per billion is hazardous waste. This household has 14,000 parts per billion. Do you see that on the news? No. And when you see all these other cities saying, oh, we have higher levels of lead than Flint. No, you don't. That's just a way to downplay Flint. So don't fall into that trap. And there's not a reward for the worst water. There's no good that comes out of that. But also we had people that were over 22,000 parts per billion, 12,000 parts per billion. So I check these a lot just so I can make sure people are notified because we've walked up to houses. There was a gentleman that had over 12,000 parts per billion. He never received a letter telling him that he had that. Elderly gentleman. So I got angry. But I check this a lot because it lets me know what kind of funky testing they're doing. So this person is in danger. And I'm not even out, just blowing things up just to say that. That's ridiculous. So there's no reason why the city should be bragging about the 8 parts per billion when we've got that person here. Now, the next thing Mickey's going to pull up for you is our January to July to end of June testing. I just want to point out all this yellow. You know what that yellow is? If you look, these are addresses, same addresses. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, the addresses that were tested, same address, same day. Look at all these tests. And there's 2 pages of that, by the way, of that mess. And the red, by the way, the red you see is over 15 parts per billion of lead, or over 1,300 parts per billion of copper. Because too much copper also is dangerous. And the orange is people that actually tested for lead. Now, if you look in the yellow stripes, you're not going to see a whole lot of red, because what it looks like is somebody from the city or state or whatever just popped over to somebody's house and did 2 tests at once. Now, my question is going to be, when we're going to dig into this more, is were the people aware? Was their water sitting stagnant overnight, or did they just come in and start filling bottles? Because a lot of these yellows got zeros. Now, some don't, so that bit them in the backside. But the thing is you don't do 2 tests at the same house at the same day, because the first test is going to be, accurate if they let the water sit stagnant. But the second test that they did is in no way going to be accurate, because you've already flushed the lead out with that first test. Now, this is nothing new. In 2015, working with Kurt Guyette from the ACLU of Michigan as an investigative reporter, we helped expose that the city and state were lying. They were lying about the lead testing. They were pre-flushing. They were telling people to run their pipes, run their water before letting it sit stagnant. Then Jordan Chariton and Status Quo actually went out and in 2017, 18, 19 started finding that the state of Michigan were just popping into people's houses, giving them gift cards saying they wanted to test their water for lead. They were testing for chlorine and running the water. They were running the water before, filling the test bottles up and telling them that everything was fine. But also the water wasn't sitting stagnant because they were just popping in. Then in 2021, when I found out by accident that this current administration and the county and state were working together to blend our water with the Karagandhi Water Authority / Genesee County Drain Commission water. Remember Genesee County water. We're going to talk about that here in a second. When I found out that they were going to blend and they did no testing, they just started popping up at people's houses after I made it public that they weren't testing. And I started making demands to the EPA and elected officials all the way up the line. I started making a mess because it was wrong. They were going to start experimenting on our water just like they did in 2014 when they switched our water without doing proper testing. So here's the thing. Yeah, these people are doing things that I personally feel. Let me just say that again. So I run What Are You Fighting For? I'm a social worker here in Flint, but I also am operations manager at Flint Rising since 2016, when basically the groups on the ground joined together to make a coalition. And and yeah, this is criminal when you are lying to people, when you are testing their water wrong and telling them it's fine to cover your own backside and not have to spend money and to do the PR thing of look how great everything is for 7 years. No, it's not. First of all, the lead's not out. The pipes aren't out. The yards aren't fixed. The mains are still rupturing and exploding. The entire system is unstable. And it really got worse. And you can see, if you look at the chart where the city's bragging about each year looking at our lead levels, they had gone down to 3 parts per billion until 2021 when the city decided, let's go ahead and start blending another source in. And then all of a sudden it went from the 90th percentile, went from 3 parts per billion to 7 to 10 to 9 to 8. So yeah, basically they're, in my eyes, with all those yellow lines, they're not testing properly. They're having people flush. But then if you see tests where people just did one test and it looked like they turned it in on their own, there's a lot of orange and red in those spreadsheets. And again, these are available on the state of Michigan's website. You can just Google state of Michigan Flint water and you can go to it and download it. You can look through, sort it by street. You can sort it by this. But if you see a street address, please don't harass people. All right. Because there was enough of that happening. The thing to look at is the dates that they did the testing and the results. Also, if you tested your water and never got anything in the mail, this is where you can find your test results. A lot of people have had that happen. So that's why I go back to this quite a bit. And so, yeah, I am going to call foul on their testing. And also I'm sorry, but 32 commercial buildings do not represent how the residents of Flint use their water. So please, please, please get your water tested. Again, like I said before, the navigator is going to, you can go to City Hall and say, hey, walk in there and say, I need a test kit. Our lawsuit provides 2 free lead and copper tests every 6 months. So I say do one every season, right? I mean, or here's a big thing. Jolena Freeman, I'd like to thank her for this. She brought this up. A resident was asking about warnings about water quality. There's a lot of blight happening. I mean, we have a lot of blight, but there's a lot of blight work happening and homes being knocked down, not fast enough for some. Some are just left in an unsafe nightmare. But there are blight, because apparently that's the focus. Let's not finish the lead service line replacement program or the restoration program. But when there's construction, so when homes are being knocked down, when the streets are being fixed, even when the bricks were being relayed to there's still a mess. But, all this stuff, whenever there is construction that shakes up the system, so digging, hitting things, disconnecting pipes, rupturing mains, it shakes up the entire system. So even if you're not on the same side of town where the construction is being done or where a main breaks, service lines being replaced, it's shaking up the entire system. We're all connected. Okay. So there's going to be safety issues. That's why we have filters provided in a lawsuit and these tests for 1 year after the last service line is replaced, because it takes a year for it to settle down, for the system to settle down, with it not being shook up, because people are seeing brown and orange water again. Yes.
That's the question I got.
Oh,
because I wanted you to get it out. Listen, how do you do this? I mean, you've been to council.
Mm-hmm.
You go to court.
Yeah.
You a mother.
Yeah.
You a wife.
Yep.
And you still got to have time for you.
Yeah, I don't do that. I try to paint my nails once a week to try to do some kind of self-care. Because again, I work in mental health. So I'm always getting my clients, consumers, and residents to practice, self-care, because we have to do that. Because if we burn out, they win.
But that's the point that I'm saying. Just look what you had in the fight against.
I know. I mean, you're just straight lying. And I'm like, let me just color code this. You lying. This is not proper. And I feel like I'm dumber, and not just because of the heavy metals poisoning and the carcinogens and the bacteria, because they're doing this and it's out there. But the thing is they want people to be comfortable and believe everything is fine, while they're putting out here that, nah, we messing with you.
That's the point that I'm saying. Listen, you give up. We just a little small boutique thing that we doing.
But you let me tell the truth.
That's what I'm saying. You giving people more information what's going on with the pipes, the news.
Yeah.
The news, you would think everything is all right. Just like the mayor came out, said all the pipes was done. And for me to hear Tanya giving you more numbers, addresses.
On the daily, I get addresses from residents, messages from residents, and I don't always get back on Messenger as fast, because sometimes I am human. I've had to accept that, and I can't just run on rage and caffeine and energy drinks, and my ADHD hyperfixation on these things. These are things that are being done to us, our neighbors, and our friends and our family. I walk up and down my block. I just stop. And there's people out there that have seen me just pull up to their house being like, hi, I see that you have a barrel in your front yard instead of a sidewalk. What's going on? Because first of all, a lot of us, and I know how it feels like we feel nobody cares. Because the media is not covering all this. Whether they don't have time or they don't have the ability, or they just keep bringing in new folks who have no idea what's going on. And that's a big thing. And so a lot of them will keep them away from me, because then I come up with this. I'm like, oh, hey, look at this. Let me tell you what this means. And let me. But then a lot of places like Scripps, like Status Coup, like the independent journalism that we've had, international journalism has been great. They've taken the time to actually dig in, but a lot of people get overwhelmed. I've had reporters call me like, hey, we Googled Flint and found your name, and I'm on the phone with them for 3 hours and I never hear from them again, because I think I made their head explode. So there's times when I want to be like, I'm sorry, I have all this information and I do want to break it down, make sure everybody's educated. I want to make sure they care about it and that they know how to protect themselves, so they can also call out the lies and BS, but also protect their families. One of my biggest things about the Flint water crisis, is the fact that in 2014, in May, they switched us April 25th of 2014. At the beginning of May, we failed our first safe drinking water test for cancer-causing disinfection byproducts, or total trihalomethane. So within a couple weeks. Then the first lead started spiking in August of 2014. People were getting Legionnaires and dying in 2014. Now, they could have come out and been like, hey, we tried to do this. We tried to make this happen, and it's not working out the way that we had hoped. So please get bottled water. Please get filters. These are the right kind of filters, and not passing out the junk filters, the ones that are actually rated to reduce lead and total trihalomethane. If you want to use a filter, please get. I personally would recommend a fridge filter, like a zero water pitcher filter you can put in the fridge, because the ones on the taps, even though that's what they are mostly giving out, if you run hot water through them once, they're ruined. And if you let them sit, bacteria can grow on them.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I'm not trying to cut. You said if you run hot water
through a tap filter once, you've ruined the materials. Yeah. You cannot run hot water through it. And accidents happen. People forget, kids, it happens, right? So that's a big thing. So I want people to know, like, I would prefer, if you're going to use a filter, use a pitcher filter. zero water pitchers. Just make sure they're rated to reduce lead and disinfection byproducts. But they also will tell you right on the box, do not use if there's a microbial issue in the water. So here we're going to roll into our next topic. Again, we got a lot this week. Quietly, on August 8th, the same day that the city's bragging about the 7th year being in compliance for lead standards, the city likes to forget and hope that you'll forget that lead is not the only or the most dangerous contaminant in our water, except for the folks that are having 14,000 parts per million. That's there aren't words. Okay, that's over double, almost 3 times hazardous waste levels. That's horrific. And for them to be like, yeah, everything's fine. What are you doing about these folks? Are you doing anything? Have you gone to help them? Right. So, and look at all these people testing in red and orange. All these people, all the people. And look at all the yellow, which is the mess tests. So, and again, even if all those tests were right, they had less than 200. They had less than 200 residential tests in a 6-month period. But then if you look at those yellow lines and if you take out the duplicate tests, it's less than half.
And that's the third one.
Yeah. Red is bad. Orange means there's lead there. And yeah.
That's the third slide. You see red, don't you?
You see lots of red. And you see orange, because, yeah, there's a 15er in there that they didn't put in red. So let me go ahead and take that. But again, orange is there's lead here, because 10 is not safer than 15. Yeah. So again, and then half these tests, because your residents aren't doing tests because they don't tell them that the testing is available to them. Yeah. So you're looking at like 100 tests in a 6-month time period.
Well, you got one question.
Sure.
Can we use the pitcher water for boiling potatoes?
So what I would do is I would filter the water first, yes, and then boil it. Because what you want to do is you want to filter first. Whenever, especially when you're seeing construction, main breaks, something going on, pressure dropping, if you notice pressure dropping or any kind of discoloration, filter first and then boil. Because then you want to remove as much of those heavy metals as you can, because boiling will just condense it, basically meaning that pot of water, when you boil it, it reduces the amount of water that's in it, but it won't reduce the amount of metals. So there's basically more metals per the amount of water you have. So filter and then boil if you're going to do that.
And this is what we paying for every month.
Oh yeah. I got a thing on my phone popped up today saying don't forget to pay your water bill. It's like $250, and I'm like but I have to also right now. Currently, my husband's out buying bottled water because we're out, and I hate it. I hate buying bottled water, buying the jugs, all that stuff. I hate it because this is not what we should be doing. If we were replacing our infrastructure and not experimenting with it, we wouldn't be here, Flint. You know what I didn't do today? You know what I didn't do yet? I didn't go to my whatareyoufightingfor.com, because at the top of that, if anybody's ever wondering how long it's been, 9 years. Today is day number 3,396. Oh my God. Since we've had clean, safe water.
When the pipe's gonna be done?
When's the pipe's gonna be done? Well, let's see. Tuesday's my birthday, and that would mark 14 days. Oh, thank you so much. I hope I don't get Legionnaires. That's our next topic. So for my birthday. So here we are looking at the city said that they're trying to say that they met August 1st deadline to have all the excavations done. We're hearing from residents that nobody's ever. I got a neighbor 2 houses down. He's never had it switched, is even dug up and excavated and checked and or replaced. So, again, we have to look at all the documentation, and they have to prove within 14 days that it's true. And then they have to prove that to the judge, and it has to be documented. So we'll see how that comes out. So we'll be hearing more probably this week about what mess there is. But again, please, if you have not had your service line replaced, please, at this point, I would just email the NRDC, which is flintpiperemoval@gmail.com. You can send them your address. You can send them your information saying, hey, nobody's come and checked my service line to tell me what the material is, and or replace it. If it's lead or galvanized steel, it needs to be replaced. And then the restoration is following up. And I've got a little hot tip about restoration too, that we're going to say. Yeah, basically, there's some amazing folks out there doing the restoration work, really doing it. And they are actually told the city that they're willing to work 7 days a week. They've actually got it worked out with the asphalt plants to be able to pick up on Saturday nights so they can work on Sunday, even if the plants are closed on Sunday, because they have heaters in the trucks to keep the asphalt warm and workable and pliable. So they just need to have overtime approved. They've been waiting this whole time.
Who approves overtime?
The city. Well, city council and the mayor.
Oh, no, come on. You talking about this council?
Yes.
And this administration.
But then don't forget that it's not the city of Flint's money. It's the state of Michigan's money. So why is this not getting approved?
Well, they playing like it's their money. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, when you go to try to get benefits and they act like it's coming out their Social Security pocket, like the individual. No, or DHS. No, we have all been through that. No. So, yeah. So, again, if you've not had your service line checked or your property restored, the phone number to call is 810-410-1133. That'll get you to row/City of Flint. And then you can email gettheleadout@cityofflint.com. And I would copy that with Flint pipe replacement @gmail.com. So, yeah. But we'll put that in the comments. Please keep going, because just because they're saying that it's all done, we know there's people that have been missed, and that's not okay. There's not, we still have people at 14,000 parts per billion. We have people still in the hundreds. We still have people well over 15 parts per billion of lead, and then even going too high for copper. That means there's still a corrosion problem in our water, leading us to the next bit of great news, which is the something they don't talk about. Basically, quietly on August 8th, same day the city's bragging about the, looky here, look at the lead dropping. Not really. There's the next article. The next link is Genesee County offers advice on Legionnaire's disease with case numbers on the rise. So, great. So this is the link all together. It says, and it's just, Yep. So this one was quiet. I just happened to, somebody tagged me on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it says the county is offering advice on the prevention of Legionnaire's disease with case counts on the rise with more warm weather ahead. Now let's talk about what Legionnaire's is. Legionnaire's is basically a form of bacterial pneumonia. Okay. In 2014, my son, my youngest, had pneumonia in September of 2014, and the pediatrician couldn't even understand it. I ended up getting it. We know now that it was most likely Legionnaire's, because who gets pneumonia in September? The reason that most doctors weren't testing for it in 2014 is that Legionnaire's is common in hot tubs, which we don't have, and commercial air conditioning. Okay, which we weren't around. So the fact that they're like, oh God, it's in the water. So we actually worked with several different people, Virginia Tech. They went in and tested and proved that the Legionnaires and Legionella, they tested some people that died, because they're trying to say like, oh, it was 12, 14 people died, blah, blah, blah. But then the former special prosecutor, Todd Flood, and his team actually pulled up death certificates. And in an 18-month time period, going back to 2014 and 2015, 2016, there were hundreds of people that died of bacterial pneumonia that was either undiagnosed or misdiagnosed Legionnaire's, because most doctors, they didn't know that there was a Legionnaire's outbreak because they weren't notified. And so they didn't test people. And you can only test people who survive. You can test their urine and their blood and everything like that, and their sputum. The antibodies only last up to 18 months. So by the time we all heard about this, it was long past with my kids and myself. However, here we are again. Legionella, the bacteria that causes Legionnaire's, it feeds off of corrosion, iron corrosion. So basically there's a corrosion issue. So that's food for bacteria. Add to it water stagnation. Basically, the hydrants aren't being opened and flushed. We know we have a lot of stagnant water because there's a lot of folks whose there's the empty homes. Their service lines are still sitting there. They weren't removed. There's a lot of service lines that are still in the ground. And there's a lot of folks that have their water shut off because they can't afford the bills. And so the water is sitting stagnant. And usually they open the hydrants to flush the water to keep the water moving, because you need a proper level of chlorine, which is not a bad thing in the proper amount, to kill this bacteria. Well, when you have mains exploding all over the place, lines leaking, valves not opening in the streets, basically the treated water gushing out into the streets, and we're paying for it, you're not going to be able to have a proper level of chlorine. What's causing it is that they put acid water through our infrastructure, and it ate all the metal. It didn't just eat the service lines. Unfortunately, the outdated law that the city's bragging on doesn't cover anything but the service lines. The interior plumbing and the distribution mains in the streets were all eaten up too. They were all corroded as well. And while having a lead main isn't super common, we have something that we found out in court that they were using pot metal, which basically threw all metal together to make service lines during the boom, but it was also during the war, so they had to ration materials. So it's pot metal. And we also still have wood mains, that aren't being changed. So anyway, as these mains corrode and as everything circles through, I'm on the west side and it takes about 6 days for the water to leave the water treatment plant and get to my house. That's why I'm just going to tell you right now, when they talk about the water at the water treatment plant testing fine, that means zero to us people, because you could have God's perfect spring water coming out of the water treatment plant, which we don't. We have a blended mess and it's gross, but that's different. Going into this corroded infrastructure, every pipe that's corroded has the ability to contaminate with heavy metals, with bacteria that's been feeding off of the biofilms, building up the gunk, the things that have been shaken loose from the 100-and-some-year-old infrastructure that got eaten away by the Flint River, the untreated, highly acidic, caustic Flint River piped through for 18 months. Now, things started to settle down a little bit when we went on to Detroit. There's no way you could put any kind of chemicals in to coat holes, because when lead pipes corrode, there's holes. It Swiss cheeses them, right? Because lead's a softer metal. And then it releases that into our water. And as for like galvanized steel and things like that, cast iron, it becomes extremely rocky on the inside and chunky. So as these pieces of, bacteria and junk and everything and heavy metals are circling through our system, they're getting stuck in these little nooks and crannies like an English muffin, right? And then when something shakes it up, like a blighted house getting knocked down, a main rupturing, construction being done, a heavy truck driving over, or weather changes, because when the heat happens, when it gets hot, there's certain contaminants that will start moving faster and faster, which then cause more things to be released. Anything that would shake up our delicate, unstable, corroded infrastructure can be released into your drinking water. Okay. And if you don't have your lead service line replaced, it's flushing that into your house. But then if there's a main break near you, it's pulling it out of your service line and poisoning your neighbors. So, and you may have terrible neighbors, but none of us are Rick Snyder, state of Michigan, city of Flint, and are awful enough to poison innocent people, even if they're awful. Okay. So don't poison your neighbors, because you'll actually get punished for it, unlike the people in charge. So here's the problem. Legionnaires. So the Legionnaires is a form of bacterial pneumonia that 1 in 10 people die. If you're immunocompromised, that number goes up quite a bit. A lot of us are immunocompromised thanks to the water. And a lot of us got lung issues since we had COVID, when they weren't telling us how bad COVID was going to be on regular folk. Right. So we are already at more cases now than we'd had the entire year last year. And I'm trying. Yep. So it's on the rise. And here's the thing. That's if you're tested. And that's if it's reported to the health department. That's if the health department reports it to the CDC. And if the hospitals report it to the CDC. Because this is a problem. Mm-hmm. So before the Flint water crisis, there was maybe 6 to 8 cases a year. And yeah, I know. We've got 14 cases confirmed as of Friday, August 4th already. And again, bacteria grows faster and eats more when it's hot. And guess what we got right now? Pretty toasty. And so everybody needs to stay safe. Okay. So Legionnaires is a serious type of bacterial pneumonia caused by Legionella bacteria. How you get it is through steam. People breathe in the droplets like in the shower. Or if you're steaming something, yeah, because usually you boil the water to kill bacteria. Yeah, most of us don't take boiling showers. So your steamy shower is not going to be hot enough to kill the bacteria. And it thrives in warm environments like water heaters, like hot water lines. And it thrives in stagnant places, like our distribution system. So how you do this is, one, please, in my house, even if it's wintertime, we have to have the bathroom, when we're taking a shower, we have to have the bathroom window open and the exhaust fan on. Do not open your mouth. Do not brush your teeth in the shower. Do not brush your teeth with this water. This is me yelling at you. Do not do this, because one, the caustic water has eaten the protective coating off people's teeth and people getting, dental problems, teeth falling out their heads. I've firsthand experience.
A lot of that in Flint.
Yep, our teeth falling right out our heads, and they're like, "Oh, y'all don't brush teeth." No, my hygiene is amazing with my teeth because I've spent so much of my money on my mouth trying to save my teeth. So that's crap. But they always try to blame it on us. They're always trying to say we're dirty people and we don't know what we're doing because they think that we're all stupid. No. So basically, when you're taking a shower, please have it well ventilated. And you should do that anyways for the disinfection byproducts because they come through in steam as well. And they cause cancer, just, neurological issues, gastrointestinal issues, and it's not good. So keep it open. Run your water before you get in. So this is the crap that is not fair. Our water is the most expensive in the United States. Okay. We pay the highest rates in the United States, 8 times the national average. And we have to flush the water. So when you are going to take a shower, please run your water, get that water moving, and try to get anything that may have grown in those pipes that's been sitting, get it out. Please, there are shower head filters you can try to get. There are things you can try to get. I mean, none of them are proven because out there's not really filters that you can get that are meant to protect and save your lives. It's supposed to help with some things, but none so far have helped. Like the tap filters, the material used inside to trap, heavy metals is the same material that's used to trap and grow bacteria in the labs and CDC. So if you use a tap filter, run cold water through it for several minutes after it's had a time to sit there to try to flush the bacteria out. Okay. And again, this is why I recommend, I hate recommending bottled water, making people rich off of it. But yeah, so what you're going to want to do is filter and then boil. And then when taking a shower, when you get up in the morning, run your water. And yeah, it's costing money. So we all need to be getting down to city council and to the mayor's office and be like, okay, we need to deal with these water rates because the fact that we still have lead in the system, we still have lead in the water, and we still have bacteria problems in the water, and we have to flush just to stay safe and to reduce our chances of being poisoned and or killed by bacteria. We shouldn't be having to pay for this. We should not have to pay for the money that's getting flushed literally down the toilet. But also, we shouldn't have to pay for the water that's being shot out into the streets by these mains rupturing. Now, this is all bad news. It is, but I can't say anything. But this is where I come in and thank everybody. Because everybody out there, I do work a lot and I do miss things. I do. It's a lot to handle, like what you're talking about before. So residents reaching out and tagging me in things and then sending me information. You guys are amazing. We are some of the best sleuths in the world. We've had to be. Okay, because these things weren't blasted. Did you see the Legionnaires information on every single channel? No, I didn't. And I'm like, wait, what? But it came out the same time. So these things are planned, by the way, to cover certain things up. And I'm sure that on the 8th, there was something big and positive. Everybody's, look at this, something shiny over here, like the kids with the keys. When one of my kids were toddlers, I'm like, dear God, stop screaming and look at these keys. And they didn't care. The kids were smarter than that. But we got to be smarter than that. And we have to watch. So, and they were going back talking about 41 Legionnaires cases in the county in 2014, 45 in 2015. We're on the case. The cases are on the rise. So, if you are sick, if you start to feel phlegmy, also, and I hate to say it, but New York is showing 55% increases in COVID cases. Okay. So we got to watch out for that. We have to protect ourselves, folks. And I'm not telling you to do one thing or the other, but if you start to have any kind of congestion, fever, you don't feel good. If you feel weak, you don't feel yourself, go to the doctor. And when you go to the doctor, you get tested for COVID so that at least you can, hopefully, weed that out because it's going to be the first thing. Oh, it's COVID. It's respiratory COVID. But we know COVID presents itself differently. But have them test your sputum, so your phlegm, coughing it up, your urine, your blood. Have them test you for Legionnaires, for Legionella, antibodies. Have them test you for this. But don't wait around at home being like, oh, this again. So one of the biggest things is always our health. And it is annoying. Believe me, I have endocrinologist, gastroenterologist, gynecologist, rheumatologist, neurologist, oncologist. But so I have a lot of ists, and my kids also have a lot of ists. And it is annoying to go to these appointments, and it's annoying a lot of times when they don't know how to help you because our bodies are presenting weird. Still go. Get your testing done. Please take care of yourselves because we cannot, unfortunately, trust our city government, our state government, our federal, our county, and our local media to cover all this. It is a lot, But at the end of the day, your safety, your health, your family's health and safety is what's number one. And we are going to talk about each of these a little bit more. I don't even know how long we've been on, to be honest. Mickey, I wasn't even. Oh, seriously. All right. And I know I've thrown a lot at everybody. And that's the great thing about this, is that you can share it with your neighbors and you can go back and you can rewatch it. And I'll usually jump in the comments and add links and stuff, as I'm rattling off information, because I printed stuff out and I'm like, I'm at a news desk, because I am. And again, I cannot thank you, Mickey, enough for giving up your Saturday afternoon. And it's not just the hour that we're on. It's also me bugging him through the week and then chatting his ear off, and coming up with ideas and ways to make this more informative and helpful and get the most information that we can get out to everybody, because it's what matters. So also, nobody's getting paid to do this. So we're doing this because we care. And all the different shows, everybody's got the different themes and everything like that. But all across the board, the number one thing about 810 News Media Group is to keep our residents informed. So it's news media for Flint residents, by Flint residents, by the community, informing you and answering your questions and being there to support, because we are all in this together. And again, we stopped them. They were doing this mess and, going back, working decades to get this, Genesee County water and everything. Because I also want to point out that the Legionnaires is for Genesee County. What do we have in common with the rest of Genesee County? We're all on the Carigandi Water Authority, KWA/Genesee County Drain Commission water, which is the untreated water that basically is to make money off of fracking and selling untreated water to corporations and factories like General Motors and, the sugar beet farms and all that stuff, because they don't want those nasty treatments. They don't want to spend the money to take the treatments out. So this experiment that they've been trying to do since the 60s, and it kept getting shut down because of fraud and, corruption, because they stole people's homes through eminent domain, and they built this pipeline from Lake Huron. That's where the pumping station and the treatment plant for Detroit is. And they went ahead and built one that just ran parallel alongside with it, but it's not treated at the source. And it's not in a covered basin. It's not as safe. It's basically untreated water being piped for 60, 70 miles, which is not done anywhere in the United States, by the way, just here. But in Flint, sent to us. And the original plan, which was Mayor Sheldon Neely, when he was on city council, his thing was they didn't build the KWA or Genesee County Drain Commission system to be big enough to treat the whole county and all the factories they were selling their water to. So what we were going to be set up to do, which we stopped, thankfully, was we were going to have the KWA, Genesee County pipeline, untreated water going to our outdated water treatment plant, and treated, badly, because it's a outdated plant. And we didn't even have the equipment to put in corrosion control installed. And a Y pipe was to be built to blend in the Flint River. So again, they didn't switch us because of money saving option. No, it was to put us on this more privatized pipeline, because the more privatized you get, the less recourse residents have when something goes wrong, the less they have to follow the federal laws, municipal laws, right? It's a loophole. So they privatize everything and they can do whatever, and we've got no recourse because you're not dealing with a government. Which, I complain that our government's not doing their job, but yet we can go use the laws to prove this and fight against them and get actual remedies, which is what my Safe Drinking Water Act case does, is to get remedies, which is replacing the pipes and everything. But they found a loophole about blending. Blending's not covered by the laws, which we need to work on, everybody. We got to get that done. And so they're blending our Detroit water, which we fought hard to get. In 2015, we fought so hard to get them to put us back on Detroit, to put us on a less caustic, less dangerous water source. And we didn't want to use our water treatment plant anymore because it obviously wasn't doing the job. They didn't have the equipment. They were dumping chemicals into holes in the floor, treatment chemicals. And there's testimony on this. So everything I'm saying is public knowledge. It's out there. So we wanted to go in Detroit because we'd been on it for 50 years. They have one of the best water treatment systems. And then, of course, in the middle of it, GLEWA, because it basically taking Flint off of the Detroit system, bankrupt Detroit. And so then GLEWA goes to regionalize Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. So that was the plan, folks. It's all about money, like it always is. If anybody goes to my Instagram post, I don't know. I like heavy metal music, not in my water. I like heavy metal in my music, not in my water. So I used to be called the Metal Lady because I do metal shows and work with metal bands, and then it became the Metal Lady with also the crappy water lady. Great. So anyway. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. So I actually lost it. I made myself last and lost where I was going. What was I talking about?
You didn't like your Instagram.
Oh, so there's right. So my Instagram, I put a song on the image, the flyer that you guys made for me, which I love. It makes me look awesome. And it's from by a band called Lamb of God with special vocals by another band I like called Hatebreed. And the lyrics come out, you're not a human being, you're a price to be paid. And that gets me because none of these decisions that the city, state, county, federal government have been making have been in our best interests, treating us as humans. We are dollar signs. Okay. Genesee County would go bankrupt if we weren't paying for this Genesee County pipeline that we had already invested, hundreds of, if Flint was so broke, where did we get the hundreds of millions to invest in this pipeline? Oh yeah, fraud. But that's a whole bunch of different stuff. So anyway, so they're blending this pipeline, so that way we're forced to pay 2 water system bills. So we're paying as the water's shooting out into the street and poisoning people and killing folk. We're paying for the GLEWA, the Detroit water that we wanted. And then we're paying for this blending experiment that is going badly, obviously, with the lead still high, because when you do something like this and stir things up, it's releasing contaminants. But again, they don't care what's being released into our taps or into our bodies. They only care that we pay our water bill. And because the Genesee County and this whole drain commission, the KWA, the whole water pipeline, they need our money. They talk about how, Flint's trash and Flint's broke, but you're desperate to get our money now, ain't you? You find loopholes in laws to make sure you get our money. You want and need our tax base, and you need our water bill base because that's your investment. So anyway, that being said, they're experimenting on our water. They're running it through very delicate, damaged infrastructure, which right now, while it's hot and there's construction going on, there's blight going on, there's weather changes, and there's a lot of people with their water shut off. And there's houses just sitting stagnant. They didn't remove the pipes. There's still corroded service lines in the streets, contaminating the entire system. So that feeds bacteria, the heat, the stagnant water, as they're not flushing the hydrants, because once again, the Genesee County Drain Commission water system was not built big enough to handle it. And don't forget the iconic water treatment plant, the tower that says Flint on it that you see in all the news and everything like that, is shut down for maintenance, bacterial testing, painting, and all that stuff. So that actually helped us maintain our pressure. So push the water, faster, harder through the system to make sure it was moving and less stagnant. So we have less pressure, we have less water, and they're not using the hydrants to flush it, which again, we all get mad about, but we need it to move the treatment, the chlorine that we need through the system to move this stuff along. So we're not doing any of the things. They're actually doing all the things to cook us up some Legionella bacteria. Then it can live in your water heater, and it can live in your pipes, and it can make you sick. So safety first. Okay, please, one, go get your water tested. I would prefer independent testing if somebody's got funding, because every time I bring in somebody independent, they either get bought off or run out. So that's bit me right in the backside, and all of us. I mean, that's happened like pretty much every time I've partnered with somebody from the outside. Yeah, learn my lessons, I guess, because they promise to do this and to keep it independent, and they turn around and sue you for saying the water's still bad. Me for $3 million, because that's a thing. Yeah, I brought them here to help because they weren't listening to the residents, even though it was our data and it was our testing. We had to bring a man in, a wealthy white man in from the outside with a PhD with letters behind his name, because they weren't even listening to the PhDs here. And, they dismissed Dr. Mona. They dismissed Dr. Laura Sullivan, who's one of the smartest people I've ever met, who is a mechanical engineer and has a PhD, but also a woman. So there you go. So they dismissed her. And so we brought this person in to just basically corroborate all the things we had been saying since February of 2015, when Aaron Brockovich and Bob Bocock told us to test because we found lead. That all the way back then. And we were worried about bacteria and total trihalomethane. So the people are the experts, just so you know. And people who don't think so, we can teach you. We can teach you so much. And so that's why I've been able to give speeches at these conferences. And I don't have a PhD. My degrees are in business, not in science. But I had to learn. I had to learn to survive. And that is your motivation. That you will learn quickly when you got to figure out how to protect you and yours, right? So we learn. And so Flint can teach everybody. And that's why what's happening right now with this administration and the complete flubbing of this service line replacement program, while we jumped in and helped Benton Harbor, and they got fixed in a year, and they're actually addressing internal plumbing. So they're embarrassing us because our strength, our street smarts, our compassion for our neighbors, and our sense of what's right and wrong is what broke this out in 2015, 2016. Right. And we knew it was wrong. And people in 2014 already started protesting it from the rates and the discoloration that was happening. They dismissed everybody. But it was our intelligence, our expertise, and our fight that got this work going. So now we have these, elected officials that are flubbing it and just saying, well, your work is trash. Who cares? I'm just going to go ahead and have a bowel movement on your work. And then your health. That's me look at that. That was me being polite right there. But yeah, so it's making us look a mess because Flint, we lead the country in so many movements, the union, the fair housing movement, civil rights, all that stuff, because it's us. And again, I always quote, Claire McClinton, because she said, you poisoned the wrong city. And they did. And then we helped expose it for the rest of the world, who's now like, oh, let's test our water. Oh, this is bad. Oh, let's send billions on infrastructure. Great. It's about time. And you're welcome. But then I turn around and look, and we're not even fixed. We're not even fixed. Talking about the 7th year in a row. Why is we still got construction 7 years down the line? Why are we still doing this? I mean, we settled this in 2017 and it was supposed to be done in 2020. It's 2023 and it ain't looking good. They're saying it's done yet again. And they've done this over and over again, folks. They've said it's done over and over and over again. And then we're like, look at the numbers and listen to the people. No, it ain't. So again, get your water tested, go to the city hall, or you can call the Flint Public Health Navigators to have them, as I've thrown all my papers around in anger, Public Health Navigator Desk, which is 810-410-2020, and you can ask them to please deliver a water test kit to you and pick it up when you're done. Record phone calls if you can, because we're getting a lot of nobody answered, nobody responded. So I'd like to have backup because I'm all about the receipts and the evidence. Anything you see me post or put up, I'm going to have receipts for it, which is how I won when this professor was suing me for $3 million for saying the water was bad, because I post links and receipts and data and science behind all of it. Because you got to, it's not just my word. It's not my, if something's my opinion, like I'm saying, this is criminal, that's my opinion. I mean, actually, I think it's fact, but yeah. I mean, and there were criminal cases back when we had an attorney general that cared about justice for Flint. Which we don't have anymore. However, it does say Flint water prosecutors in the Office of the Attorney General, Dana Nessel, have asked the state Supreme Court to allow prosecutions to continue, even though they got all the cases that were already in process tossed in the garbage through terrible work. But okay, Melissa's opinion there. So do that, get your water tested. And again, if you have questions on how to properly test your water, please let me know. But let the water sit stagnant in the house, like as if you were gone all day, if you work during the day or work at night. 6 to 8 hours minimum. Let it sit like you would, and then get up and turn if you have a faucet that smells kind of funny, if you have one without a filter, use your kitchen or your bathroom faucet. Like if you're going to brush your teeth, fill those bottles up full blast. If it makes a mess, doesn't matter. You're going to fill both those bottles up. And please let me know if you don't have 2 bottles, because I'm seeing they're still using the 1 liter bottles. We changed the law on that, and you're not supposed to. Different story. Different issue altogether. Fill those up, fill your paperwork out, take a picture of it, take it back, and you should get a receipt that says your kit number on it and a tracking number. So please save that so that way it doesn't get lost. And you should, within like 3 weeks, you're supposed to be getting your results, and faster. Actually, the law says they're supposed to get a hold of you within days if your lead is over or copper are over their action levels, which again, anything over 0 is not safe with lead. 1300 is not safe for copper. And yeah, so keep an eye on that, okay? And also, if you get a letter in the mail and it doesn't say parts per billion, like milligrams per deciliter, what they're doing is they're putting it in different units so it looks less, so they can move the, yeah. Don't fall for that either. If you get something that says like 1.2 milligrams / per deciliter, now look, that's 12 parts per billion. So if you have questions, let me know. And we're going to have some educational courses on, this and actually how to go through and read all this when I'm more prepared. But I think it's very important that we do that. And with Flint Rising, we've had several community meetings before, and we got to come out of COVID and get this done to where it's accessible to everybody. But then now we have 810 News Media Group and Mickey.
Flint Rising.
Yes. Absolutely. And yeah, and even if it's here, because I know Naira Sharif, they got another punch in the teeth. They've been working with Eagle EPA against the Ajax plant about protecting our air, and they just got a kick in the teeth this week with saying that basically they worked to help build this whole plan up. So there's monitoring, and the people are going to be safe and everything, since we couldn't get rid of the asphalt plant because nobody had the backbone to say no. Because of course, why would they? To protect the folks in the area. But so there, I think that Naira is going to want to come on and do a show about the air quality. So we've got a lot of stuff with environmental justice and air quality. It's not just water. Water is my expertise. I'm not the I'm not for air quality, I'm not an expert in that. That is definitely not it. I just know from our meetings and Nair Sharif's work, oh my goodness, as along with, environmental transformation movement of Flint, caution, and, Democracy Defense League. There's been a lot of the groups on the ground working on all of this, our air, water, soil, all of it, because it's all connected. So again, get your water tested, and then also please use filters. I prefer the zero, and you can ask them when you call the public health navigator to get the water kit. You can also get your filters. You can get tap filters. You can ask if they have the zero water pitchers still. I prefer those because you can't have an accident on the tap, and then a lot of them don't connect properly, and they're kind of hard to connect. Asking somebody to help you install it is kind of difficult. But if you've been gone for the day, even if it's over 2 hours, flush that tap filter with cold water before you use it to make sure nothing has grown on it, because it doesn't take very long for that to happen, especially when it's hot. Same thing when you take a shower, because we have Legionnaire's outbreak happening. Honestly, it seems like it just never went away. Nobody just talks about it anymore. So when you get in the shower, please run your shower with exhaust fan on, door open if you got your private, if you can, window open but safe, screen, don't let somebody be bopping in there. And I know that's not always possible, but if anything, please run your water for several minutes so it can clear some of that through when you're taking a shower. So again, my name is Melissa Mays, Flint resident. What are you fighting for? Flint Rising, social worker, and happy to be here at my show. Can't thank Mickey Jordan enough for being my producer and my cohort here with getting the information out. Thank you, Flint, for being the amazing folks that you are and fighting and learning. And let's give them the ammo. Let's get the ammo that we need and share amongst each other so we can shoot this down. And I know that's terrible because of the mass shootings that's happening and everything that's going on. That's a bad analogy. Let me take that back. Let's get the ammo that let's get the information we need to guard ourselves and protect our families and protect one another and stand together to make more positive changes. Because this is not the embarrassing mess that Flint is right now with, city council, with our administration, with the state sitting back, letting us do whatever, with the county sitting back, licking their chops for our money, trying to, they're trying to absorb and take over Flint. I don't know if you've noticed that, with trying to turn everything into a county building and, county schools, county this and that. They're trying to absorb us because they want our money, because we rule. And we need to stand up for ourselves. We have the knowledge. We have the strength. And I know we're tired, but we got to take care of ourselves. Also, with Legionnaires, please, you start feeling sick, please go to the doctor immediately. There's no shame. And there's nothing more wonderful than hearing you're fine. But make sure they test your sputum, so your phlegm, coughing up, urine, and they can also test blood. So for Legionnaires. And take care of each other, okay? Be safe. You please use filters. Please look out there and speak out. You got something going on, speak out. Just be safe right now, because right now the water, there's no way we could say the water's safe because we have crumbling infrastructure. We still have service lines in the ground. There's, construction, blight houses being knocked down that is shaking everything up. So please, your health matters. Your lives matter. We matter, Flint. And I think they kind of forgot that. So we need to remind them, whether it's out in the streets or shooting messages, making phone calls, whatever you want to do, let's do this. And hopefully I'll see you again next week, and we'll talk about more great stuff and ways to fight back and to protect one another. But until then, have a wonderful weekend. There's supposed to be meteor showers tonight that are supposed to be beautiful if the clouds go away. I'm trying to think of something happy. I mean, explosions, and I enjoy that. But also, thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging in here. And thank you, 810 News Media Group. Please donate, because again, we're here for free, and we want to, nobody's getting paid doing this, especially not this awesome gentleman over here who's doing all the work. So please support local media, support local community media, and 810 News Media Group. Please share it, please follow. And if you got questions, just let us know, and hopefully see you next week. Have a good week, everybody.
Peace.